Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things.
This is part 2 of my conversation with IT industry veteran Satyendra Kumar. In the first part, he had shared his early story of how he got into IT, his career, and how he built scalable teams and systems across organizations. In this conversation, we continue with his perspectives on when agile approaches are most suitable and how he approaches understanding an organization to enable change when he starts with a business problem. And he shares a lot of experiential anecdotes in both these cases. He also shares his tips on addressing the data quality and quantity by looking at the metrics and identifying the right lead indicators. He also has a suggestion for the quality function to learn and evolve. And finally, talks about an upcoming book and gives us a sneak peek into what it takes to building excellent organizations. Listen on. Now, the other thing that you mentioned about scaling your own team, as well as when you're sharing these goals and so on, in a way, it is letting go of some of the control and then giving them the empowerment. Okay. In the past, we have had discussions on this approach called Agile, which also stresses on team empowerment and then taking ownership and so on. So we haven't spoken about it for a while. So one, if you can share your perspectives on that and whether anything has changed over the years.
Yeah, so Shiv, I'm a guy who might sound sometimes very, maybe too confident, which might to the extent of being rigidity, but I have been, on the other hand, very analytical person. So if I find something which is good, I'm the first person to easily accept and move forward with that. Now, over years, definitely in the agile scenario, and I mean, I remember from the time, I think I recall back as 2003, I was a speaker on software engineering conference in Australia. And the gentleman, there was a panel discussion. And the topic was heavy methodologies versus agile methodologies. I was told the same day, the day of the panel, and they said, you are on the heavy methodology side. Okay. And the guy who was headed ThoughtWorks those years, I think very famous gentleman, I forget his name, in agile scenarios. He was on the other member of the panel. So since that time, and we had a fantastic discussion at that point of time. We had challenges in Infosys. Everybody wanted agile. A lot of youngsters wanted agile. And till date when I'm working with IT companies. So I've gone through a whole lot of a gamut of experience. My view is this, even today. I'm not against any approaches. My view is today, which is driven from more of experience out of having seen them, that agile methodologies are good for a certain context, certain scenarios. One is where, particularly, especially on the product scenarios, where day-to-day work, requires you to either get back to the person whom you're building the product, whether senior management or actual customer, and therefore because the requirements keep evolving, there's an iterative approach to do that. But there is no very big critical hurry for the timeline, number one. Okay, these approaches do work out extremely well. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to really design a very super process for this. And if this approach, and with the advent of DevOps and so on and so forth, and a number of newer approaches there, which are basically trying to push a certain amount of a process with a view that it's not left out completely open, and there are certain risks which also need to be handled. And I think DevOps has done that part, and various project management also being talked about, and et cetera, et cetera. So they work good, but I still maintain that any critical scenarios, any real-time systems, nuclear systems, aircraft systems, hot fuel systems, I will still not touch Agile. Okay, I would be very, very reluctant. Maybe I may do in the areas like which are HR or some other areas, but definitely not for product, even a product development. So that's one part. Second part, I feel that the customized work, which are our services work, which is what a lot of companies do, Infys and all TCSs of the world. Again, you will have to be a little careful there. Unless you have a good risk management approach superimposed on the Agile, okay, then it could work probably better. Otherwise, I see the first thing in any services scenario is, and I can assure you, as back as last year, I was employed by a company, don't want to name them. They have their own platform, fairly large platform. They have their own products globally. And their issues, the problem statement to me was, when it came to me, that some of our customers feel, and the customers mean they were customized on the platform. Okay, so that we are overcharging them. That's the feeling, and we have received few complaints. So what do we do? So I looked into this company. I talked to lots of project managers. I talked to a whole lot of engagement managers who get the work from the clients. And they had a very large customers in US. I think the issue came down to, again, how do you estimate? And there were no very clear answers. There were certain answers, of course, but there were no clear answers. Neither at the bottom layer, which is the back-end layer, which is the project management side, nor on the front-end side. So when I had a discussions with the senior folks, and I said, no, my intent is not to come out of the methodology what you follow, and I have nothing to do. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I want to bring in certain elements there. Can these guys document the kind of work you do, that is certain kind of a transaction or a screen or whatever you name it? What is the average time does it take? I'm not even going to heavy, level 4 approach of CMM, where process capabilities need to be defined, or nothing of the sort. At least the simple things which need to be put down through their experience, so that the engagement managers can use it. That happened in the company, number one. And by the way, since then, I've been this was 3 years back. Every year I have to go and see whether which I recommended the approaches are working or not. So every year I audit them. Audit in the sense, just talk to them, call them. All project managers know me, senior guys know me. So I just have a discussions, and they themselves say, so I don't have to look at anything. Second thing, I found there that this whole game of data, which in our heavy process companies we have, is not properly, kept track of or analyzed in the manner we analyze it. So I said, no, I'm not doing heavy, but let me see the effort data. How do you really ensure people are shifted out of the project? Initially, you estimate something, new people join, people go on leave, and I was shocked to see that there was no connection between who is on leave or not on leave. It's 8 hours per day, billing happens as per that, and so on. You know it, right? Now, I've just given very simple examples, but then what I want to say is, Agile is good, provided, and the way I look at it is risk scenario. There are any situations where risks are, depending on the risks, where the risks are not too high, not critical, I'm fine to use Agile. which might reduce certain amount of a process work or certain amount of a sometimes bureaucracy set in the companies that can be probably be reduced, and therefore Agile could be a good approach to handle that. But wherever the risks are little higher kind, you must put in a layer of risk management over these methods. Otherwise, even till date, I'm working with a very large bank, right? And I'm shocked to see what's going on there. I don't want to name at all. There is a tussle between the very senior guys and the youngsters on the floor. Senior guys who have gone from iFlex platforms or those kind of platforms or Infosys kind of platform, they have 20 years experience, 15 years experience. They just don't want to touch the Agile. They've not been able to handle it, whereas the youngsters are pushing in. So I am, in fact, both sides bringing them together. And this is the approach I have taken there,
Okay.
that be open to it. They have certain good things, certain wonderful things. And the way I look at the Agile is that you reduce certain amount of a process kind of a work, etc., certain documentations, because the risk is not there. Why do you have to do it? Okay, if most of the time even heavy process companies, this is their problem today, that processes, when they get defined, they don't look at the risk. They define everything there. They unnecessarily do too much of things there. Whereas there are only few things which need to be looked at from a risk. For example, I'll give you an example. This is 2 days back. I was with a hotel reviewing them quarterly, a 5-star hotel. And lately over years, I have gone to too much on the risk side because I'm trying to marry the process and the risk. And I'm a believer today that process makes sense only if you know the risk. You don't tell a doctor to how to use a stethoscope or how to take an ECG and write a process on that, because he has the competencies to do that. There's no risk involved in it. So why the hell you have to write something on it? So similarly, when a question was asked to me, the hotel, because I groomed them up on the risk, there was some risk perceived by the operational guys that one of the cottages, 2 tiles have fallen. It's a beautiful hotel, beautiful property, 2 tiles have fallen. And there's a decorative tiles inside the inside of the room. And therefore, they have immediately put that in the risk category. And they had naturally invited one of the builders and the guys who did the work, which was only 3 years back. They had completed the outfit, and they wanted to find out what should we do. In this review, I make sure I'm a believer, as I said, in management reviews. No, unless the MD is sitting, unless whole corporate guys are sitting, HR head is there, the sales head is there, I don't get these reviews done. The review has no value otherwise. 2 guys asked me, one of their senior guys, head as well as head of operations, that, hey, he told the operations guy, hey guys, why just for a one-time incident in the last 3 years, why do you want to put in the risk? It looks bad. Suddenly they turned to me, what's your opinion, Mr.? I said, issue is not 1 time or 10 times. Issue is, does this have an appreciable risk, which can impact your business? Imagine in another room it happens, where another tile falls in when the guest is inside the room, and it becomes a newspaper story, you will lose all your business. So don't worry. First thing is, you get immediately the guys who will have to figure it out whether these only the tiles which were a problem because they might have cracked, or the issue is elsewhere somewhere else, and it's a larger issue. So look at the risk. So very often I find the processes get defined without even looking at it. And I think that is where, coming back to the Agile story, Agile has lots of good stuff, but unless you look at it, the risks involved and the context in which you are applying it, it will be completely wrong to say you can apply everywhere. And that is the way to go forward.
Yeah, that's good. So this is also a good segue to get into the other theme you spoke about overall organizational or business excellence, where we do talk about the impact or the outcomes or the value for the customer and how the processes need to be aligned, etc. Now, when you have been, say, associated with so many different business or domains, where do you start? to understand a business?
Yeah. Earlier years, when we used to work in companies, we used to always were hired for either setting up, earlier I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years back. Generally, you were hired for either get me some certification of X, Y, Z. So the standard was very clear. These are the requirements, and you start pushing those requirements into the guys' minds and push them. The standard wants it, certification wants it. You have no choice. We had no concept of change management those years. The change management was only certification wants it. If you want to be certified, you better do it. Okay. But I think over years, the last 10 years or 9 years since I've come out of Infosys, the jobs come very differently. Okay. Jobs don't come for, I want assessment for ball rage or assessment for ISO. No, they don't come. At least I get the businesses which I get is there is a business problem. That's how it starts to me. Okay. All my jobs have been somewhere it starts with that I have this kind of a problem. Okay. For example, one company called me last year, IT company, and they said, Kumar, their CEO discussed with me because I start from there. First thing, this is the first lesson. Don't start with the quality guy. Okay, because he might have called you. Mm-hmm. Okay, but you may not get the access to CEO, but then before going there, you either figure it out yourself, what are their business problems are, ask him questions, or request him that you want to meet your senior guys. I don't just take a job because quality guy wants something from me. No. So you start from the top. Secondly, when I went there and had a discussion, and he was a very nice gentleman. It's a company of about 18,000 people, IT folks. So he said, Kumar, we are not just we are a part of a business. We have a larger business. And therefore, we have this IT group, and larger business is global business. So we help out globally, like any of the IT department of a business. So all my business guys are unhappy with me, with my team. All have one problem, day in, day out, I get trashed, that you don't deliver on time. Naturally, his problem was on-time delivery needs to be improved. And I'll complete this story, but this is the way every company when I go to today, I'm given a problem statement or given an area that we've not been able to understand what's going on here. Maybe we don't have the measurements, how to set up the measurements. So coming back to the previous one, when I asked him, can you give me a data of what's in your mind, what's your on-time delivery today? How many projects, let's say 100 out of 100, you deliver on time? He said, I have no clue. And he looked at all his team, senior guys. This is normal story. This is very known picture everywhere. Generally, I go to companies, even his other guys, they all say, we don't have the data. Okay. Sometimes you do good job, sometimes you do bad job. But to say, what is my on-time day? I have no clue. So I said, okay, how do I help you now? Is it possible for you to get me 6, 7 of your project managers for 15 minutes during lunchtime? He said, yeah. So during lunch, 7, 8 project managers were called in. And I told them, guys, don't worry. Your boss is not around. I'm the only guy around with you. One empty sheet I gave them. Don't write your name, so you're anonymous. Just think from your recent memory of 1 year or 2 years or whatever, and say project A, B, C, D. 5 projects which you recall. And against each project, you just write down how much was the overrun. Was it 10%, 20%, 40%, whatever. I had 75 projects data in 15 minutes.
Wow.
Analysis of that revealed that the range of their on-time delivery was running from 70 to 100% delays. Minimum was 70%. Okay. And maximum was 100%. So I said, let's baseline this. Now we can talk business. Okay. So if you have a business problem, understanding, I think my whole discipline of whatever 20, 30, 40 years of understanding processes, I I now understand to integrate that any business problem, a large piece of that is a process issue, a wrong process or competencies of the people or analysis somewhere that they don't analyze and alerts are not issued, or they don't understand how to, ongoing basis monitor things or project management. So all that understanding, I've been able to couple it very fast. Okay. So if you do that and they see the gains with time, they appreciate you. They want you more and more. And that's how over years, I don't talk about and that I'm going to talk about something, how to write a process or how to ISO 9000 or I don't have that language today anymore. My language is, where is your business problem? And let me study that business problem and let me figure it out where you're going wrong. And I can give you innumerable examples where each problem, the larger piece of that is either somewhere a process, somewhere a leadership, or the change management. And the advantage I get by starting from the top is that very often I find the solutions exist at the bottom layer. They know the problem, they know the solutions, but nobody hears them. This senior management or middle senior management, they take them lightly because these guys cry every day. Okay. So what I do is I understand both and connect the pieces together. That this is what is happening. You guys know the problem. This seems to be the solution. Looks to be a good solution. And when I convince the senior management, they're ready to move forward. So that's my role in, by and large, every company, rather than teaching ABC of the game.
See, I've also seen the other side where there is too much data. Nowadays, they say that because it is easy to capture or whatever, but the quality of the data is a little suspect. So how would you approach those kinds of situations?
Yeah, both are very pertinent points, Shiva. And all 20, 30 years last, I've been dealing with both of them. The first thing is, most of the companies, their measurement system, if you review, I provide this service, and last 2 years, I've done very large work for many large companies. I don't want to name very, very large companies in Bombay, businesses, not IT. And they were ISO certified as back as in 70s or 80s probably, late 80s was the first time. They have wonderful processes. So my problem statement 2 years ago by them was that, Kumar, we have 200 processes and something is wrong. So when I went and looked at it, and it took me 2 days to figure it out, that they have not defined, many times, many companies don't define the process as a business process. They pick up the pieces of it. I have no problem with picking up the pieces, but can they connect the pieces? In IT language, you may have for a particular life cycle, a requirement, design, coding and testing process, fine. Each of them components could be there. But do I know this overall, what is the capability of my overall process when I do X kind of a work where these components are applied? And therefore, in that company, first thing I said, let's connect all the pieces with the business processes. And then we will have too many unnecessary processes. We filter that out based on risk. Again, I go back to why do we have to have that process, a component, if there's no risk involved in it? And I think it was a job of, I don't personally do the work. I advise the teams, their teams get formed. And within a month, we brought it down to some 67 processes out of 200. Oh. And it worked well. So that's one piece, the process and the measurements. The second part of that, the same thing process, is the measurements. Too many measurements get defined. I used a concept of throughout my life, and I teach also, that you may have for each process a certain measure, which is a data element. You may measure a certain data element, and you may have in your store. But what are the lead indicators for a particular business process when you're doing the work? If let's say I'm a sales guy and my revenues, I've been given a target in 6 months to go, whatever, 100 million. What are my lead indicators? Lead indicators could be pipelines of the business. Lead indicators could be the sales meetings I have had. Okay. So every scenario, whether it's a operational, whether it is execution, whether it's sales, you need to have lead indicators to track. You may have data elements, but the metrics part or the KPI part, which is what the top management looks at the end of the day. The goals are aligned to KPIs.
Yeah.
So are these KPIs connected with do you have the lead indicators for those KPIs? Focus on them. Rest all is unnecessary unless you want to measure something, you have certain strategies and you want to see success of that. That may help you to define certain measures. That may need you to define certain measures. KPIs is a larger piece which pushes you to define certain measures. So each year, each few years, you need to look at your measurement system, which by and large, no company does it. Maximum of them don't have the measurements. Okay, just some ad hoc pieces of data and you can use data mining tools, etc. A lot of data scientists have suddenly come up. Okay, and you can do that. But I think the key is the fundamental there. If you don't handle fundamentally there, what is important for the company, whether from strategy angle, whether from risk angle, whether from operational angle, or whether from customer angle, your measurements should be defined around them. Those should be analyzed rather than analyzing everything in the company. Since data scientist was mentioned by me, that's a very wonderful role which has come up. And they are wonderful tools to be able to figure out some, out of the noise, they can pick up a lot of things. But I honestly believe, I wish the data scientist was a role which quality discipline should have imbibed. Because statisticians or data scientists, anybody coming in and understanding that science, but they don't understand the context of the business. They don't understand the process, which is what the quality departments understand. Unfortunately, quality functions, as I said in the beginning, have lost the zeal to really look at things differently, keep evolving, find new ways of doing things. And data scientist was one area which even now, even if you have a data scientist, make them report to the quality functions, process functions, they will deliver a much higher value.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Kumar. So before we close, I want to ask you if you would like to reveal some teaser or something about your upcoming book. I know it's probably still a little away. Is it too early, or if you want to share something about what we can expect in that?
Yeah, so it was a dilemma to over many years of experience, and but I got persuaded by a close friend. I never wanted to write a book. So the book is around excellence, fundamentally, that how do we build excellence in organizations? Any organization which wants to sustain, survive for a long time and be profitable and grow and so on and so forth, I think excellence is the foundation of that, fundamentally. If the company's foundations are not good, they may do a great job for a few years and then they will vanish out. So I'm trying to focus in this book on various so-called hidden aspects in companies which are never get talked about very explicitly. Okay, but they need to be there. Whether you look at companies, whether TCS or Infosys or Gs of the world or 3Ms of the world or Tatas for that matter of the world, what's there in those companies which makes them tick till date? I have sort of focused on this theme. The book is not for, it is for anybody and primarily for any manager or leader or CXOs. Young CXOs, today's world, there's so much of startups are happening. They're very passionate and enthusiastic about certain subjects. But even if they're good, but after a few years, I've studied so many startups, they miserably fail because of some very basic, simple reasons. So in this book, I've tried to address, so far the book is, I don't know, it's just 2-3 months away. It's not very far away. And the final stages, I mean, sometime in August, September or October maximum, planning to do that. It's all a lot of stories, like I mentioned today. This is the way the book is written. It is not a textbook format. And it was harder for me because we guys in organizations sometimes, especially quality guys, become too structured, and that's a textbook style. So I had to first let go of that and see a free flow of writing a book. So it's written in that manner. It's right now being titled as a elusive secrets of building excellence in organizations.
Oh, very nice.
So hope I on time release it.
Yeah, as always, Kumar, it is a pleasure to talk to you, and every time I get a lot of new ideas. And thanks for taking this time and sharing your story and your experiences, and all the best for your book.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shiva. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.